Hey everyone, welcome back to the Landslide Series, and going into another exercise on how to kind of get yourself into these 16th note runs that you do. I was really inspired by, when Lindsey Buckingham was playing, I was really inspired by that moment to really try to pull more improvisational possibilities out of this song. And I got a very intense exercise that I came up with. It really gets your string crossings with these 16th note walking fingers really strong. Doing these, I think doing the scale exercise that I taught last in the series is really important because it gets the organic possibilities in your fingers. But this is a really good thing to kind of nail down sort of just the basic mechanical, all the string crossings. This is what I would describe as like a right hand rudiments sort of exercise. So what we're basically going to do is have, very similar to what we did with the displacement scale in the first exercise we did, where we're trying to go through both rhythmic and fingering possibilities. So the same way I would go through different rhythmic displacements of where the fingers play over the different chords to this song, I'm going to do the same thing here, but now what we're trying to do is walk your pointer and your middle finger, doing just pluck, 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 crossing each of the three thinnest strings. So the exercise looks kind of like this. I'll explain it in a second after I play it once. Wish me luck. Here we go. Something like that. That's a bit of what this exercise looks like in its completeness. Now, what I'm doing there, in case if you're brave enough to tackle it, is I'm just playing the chords to the song, nothing fancy. Left hand is going to be nothing fancy. You could do this with any chord. It really doesn't matter. The key is that you're thinking of the thumb, as just doing these top-bottom thumb pattern for Travis picking. Now, the way the fingers can relate to that are they can start whatever they're playing on any of four places. They can start with the thumb on the thicker string. They can start right after the thumb on the thicker string. They can start with the thumb on the thinner string. And they can start right after the thumb on the thinner string. Four different places. With the thicker, after, with the thinner, after that. Because you're thinking like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Every one of those 1, 2, 3, 4s is one of those four different places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we're going to do is as I go through every chord, I'm going to start this sequence of playing my pointer and then my middle finger on each string. So I'm going to go pointer middle on the G string, pointer middle on the B string, pointer middle on the E string, and then pointer middle on the B again, and then pointer middle on the G again, just going G, B, E, B, G. Just kind of pluck, 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 pluck. Little arpeggio up and down the thin strings. So I don't tend to be really fussy about when I move between chords because it tends to take me a little bit of time to think about it. Eventually, if you kind of make this concise, you can figure out exactly where you want things to move. I'll tend to just kind of start this pattern and then just go, okay, pointer finger's ready. Pointer finger's going to lead. And over the first chord, I'll start it right with the thumb on the thicker string. So it's like thick, thin, thick, thin. You're going to start right on the first thick. Ready, and thick. Now, when you first try to do that, first of all, I would do it slower than that. I would try it maybe. Excuse me, how fast would I do this? I would do this. It's harder to do it slow. I would try it at about that pace, if you can, or some slower metronome tempo, and just take it one string at a time. If you just get just pluck, pluck, that's a good start. And then try to get the string crossing, pluck, pluck, pluck. So in terms of this, you're doing pointer, middle, pointer. You're going thumb low, thumb high. You know, just getting this exercise in teeny little pieces is quite good enough, because eventually you got to build it up to pluck, 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 pluck. So just in teeny little pieces, build up each string crossing until you have, you know, yeah. And this thumb can keep going underneath the whole thing. You want the thumb to just be able to roll, and then you just start in. And then as you move to the next chord, this is when you kind of move where the fingers start. Just like in the last exercise, you're going to start the pointer finger right after the thumb stroke. So thick, thin, right after thick. Ready? And again, that's going to be a whole new set of combinations for the fingers. So you're going to want to slow down and work that through in the same way. Really slow. Pluck. Just get that first start. First crossing. Add one. And it's very, very easy to try to repeat a finger in a place where you shouldn't. So this is another one I really recommend you try to do it in front of a mirror, if at all possible, because you really want to have as much feedback about what your hands are doing as possible. It's very easy to get disoriented. So obviously every chord you go through, just like in the original displacement exercise I gave you, you move the finger pattern one sort of 16th note forward. So what you get, if you do it really slow, start with the thick. You're going to start right after the first thumb. And then on this chord, you're going to start right when it plays the thin string, like this. 1. And as you go back up, usually I'll go back up just right to the C chord. And on this one, I play it right after the thin string. See it? Thick, thin, thick, thin. And then I wind back up on the C chord. And then just to make sure you've got it fully expanded over all the possibilities you're going to run into in this song, same thing over the G chord. The only thing that's really different here is your thumb is stretched out over, it's kind of skipping the A string, so your thumb motion's a little different, but you really want to integrate that, so same thing. So, if you're really, really smooth, probably smoother than I was in this first set of recordings, you really want to be able to kind of do the whole chord sequence pretty much without stopping. And then, once you've got to that level, switch which finger you lead with. Lead with the middle finger instead. So if I do the same thing, if I try to do the whole sequence with the middle finger leading, starting there. And next. See, it's tricky. Over the G chord. And again, the less time you can take kind of in between the breaks between chords, the better you're going to have it. It's not essential that you do this exercise like extremely fast, at least not for this song. If you want to push it faster, you obviously can. But the big key with this is that you want to work out the possibilities of how the pointer, middle, and thumb will relate to each other. Because when you really want to do an improvisational passage, where you've got those 16th notes going on, you really want to know that your hands already know how to do the basic motions. And this is going to cover pretty much all the likely possibilities of what would happen if you were kind of improvising over Landslide. And it's really going to push it to a really deep level. If you can do the combinations just kind of in one kind of like bald sequence like this, it's going to make most of the things you'd want to do in an improvisation relatively easy by comparison. And that's really important because when you're improvising, you want to be focused on the melodies that you hear in your head rather than what your fingers are doing. And if your hands aren't fairly comfortable with these sorts of combinations, trying to follow what's in your ear is going to be quite difficult. So I found this exercise really kind of opens me up, makes it just easier to relax when I'm improvising at these higher speeds, and yeah, I'd recommend it to you for the same reason. Next couple of lessons, I'm going to go even deeper into this stuff. I'm going to talk more about playing scales, especially in upper positions, in positions that are outside of sort of the open positions that they do in the song. And basically, I'm just going to explore more kind of exotic possibilities of what happens if you hear a melody in your head that's like way up here on the neck. What would you do? How would you finger it, or how would you practice it so that you're ready for it? That's what's coming up next. I hope you get there with me, because it's quite a journey. It's a lot of fun. I've had a blast doing this so far. So hope you stick with me, and I hope you guys are enjoying what you're doing so far. Yeah, keep enjoying your time with your guitar. See you for the next lesson.